You heard the woman.
Yeah, robot.
Lovely. Okay, thanks everyone for taking the time out of your Monday night to get along to our annual general meeting, our 48th. Things to get through on.
Lovely.
You muted, Chris.
You muted yourself, buddy.
Chris.
You muted, Chris.
There we go. How's that?
Much better.
Did you catch any of that intro?
No.
No. Okay. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone for coming along and taking time out of your Monday night for our 49th annual general meeting. We've got a lot of things to get through this evening, so we will kick off shortly, but obviously the major one will be towards the end. Chris distributed an agenda as part of the meeting note, so you'll see that agenda there. We'll be following that straight through. If anybody's got any questions on the way through, please feel free to raise your hand either physically or via the reactions button on the bottom of the screen. So without any more delay, we will crack on. So Chris, do you want to give us a quick rundown of the apologies?
Sure. Okay, folks. So I've received a few apologies over the course of the last couple of weeks, and then a few more today. Just a reminder that if you're not speaking, please turn your microphones off to avoid any wild squealy noises. We do have a chat box if you'd like to raise a point, and I'm keeping an eye on the chat box too. So apologies and proxies for tonight. We've got Steve Carter, Gavin Patterson, Clive Attwater, Peter Stevens, Bryce Gayton, Ari Vrolick, Anna Donovan, Ted Booth, Arthur Hunt, Alan Dyer, Gabrielle Hindley, Jude Berger, Kathleen Davies, David Bargen, Bernadette Savage, Michael Crowley, Margaret Seidel, and James Edwards send their apologies, and most of them have also issued proxies, either to myself or to one of the Victorian branch representatives. So that's the apologies for tonight so far.
Lovely. Now, minutes of the previous meeting.
Yep, the minutes to the previous AGM can be found on our website. If you go to aeva.asn.au, you'll have to log in because it is for members only. You'll go up to the For Members tab. Under the For Members tab, you'll find a series of hyperlinks to the previous meeting minutes. The only meeting minutes that won't be there are the most recent National Council meeting, because we just held it yesterday, but they'll be up after this meeting.
Okay, great. I'll just quickly check, did anybody read those minutes and have any particular issues with them, any changes they would request? No.
I can say that I did read them. If I recall, I wrote them, but
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure you've read them.
Probably not up to me to recommend we pass them.
No.
Correct.
Can I have a mover and a seconder if there's nobody has any issues with them?
I'll be a mover. I did check them.
To move Michael Day. And
Fido seconded.
Great. Fantastic. All right. So we'll just jump into the reports. So the President's report, well, I think as everyone's very much aware, we've managed to get through the second year of the pandemic and actually got through very well. Over the course of this period, the branches have really shone out, and as an association, we've flourished and done really well, and certainly straight off the bat offer our congratulations to the branch committees for creating a great environment that people have wanted to get involved in and stay involved in. I think our membership levels have been relatively steady over this period, which has again been a testament to what's going on, and our bank balance has actually, as we'll hear later on, has not been this healthy for quite some period of time, in fact, potentially never. It has meant that some events have had to be curtailed based on where they were at what times and so on and so forth. But we have been able to get several events off the ground in various different states. Some that stand out are a couple that have just taken place in Queensland over the last few months, with the electric vehicle experience in Cleveland and the Logan EV experience. And another one that was of great note was and I hope I'm going to get my pronunciation correct, the Darwin EV muster in WA, which was fantastic. So that has continued on a pace, and there's been lots of activity around the branches. On the federal front, away from the states, well, there's actually been several announcements from state governments about different policies over the course of the year, and I'm sure most people here in the meetings will be aware of just about all of them, especially in their home states. But on the federal front, just recently, we managed to get an announcement out of our great Prime Minister, and whilst we welcomed as an association them attending the party, albeit very late, we were somewhat disappointed that they turned up to our EV party with lemon cordial. The announcement was certainly not what we were hoping for, and I guess from the association's point of view, we felt that it was a massive opportunity lost in terms of even the government just declaring that they would transition the Commonwealth vehicles and start to lead the way in terms of the transition. So with that all being said, it's back to the states and territories, where there actually has been quite a lot of work going on, and in the various states and territories, they are getting extremely competitive against each other, it would seem, in terms of their EV transition. So that is great. We've known for some time that this is going to be a movement that's driven from the ground up. So we continue to work with those particular bodies. On the international front, for those that missed it, we had an involvement in the formation of the Global EV Alliance. That is effectively a group of drivers associations similar to us from all around the world. And we were one of the founding members of that organisation. It now boasts 45 organisations from 28 countries. But most pleasingly, the the Global EV Alliance, or GEVA as we know it, has also managed to almost instantaneously get a voice, and was given a platform at the COP26, where we as GEVA delivered a message that we thought 2030 was the way forward in terms of putting a target date on the transition to electric transport. That was reasonably well received, but as with most things in that particular environment, they're always well received. Actions usually how it's going to be judged. Not expecting that a whole heap of countries will come out over the coming months and declare that they're going for 2030, but great for GEVA in its first 6 months of operation to actually be part of that. So we're represented on the membership committee there. Because it has been such a long year, our last AGM was actually in October of last year, at the start of October, and we're at the end of November now. The year actually involves the EV Vision Conference, which took place last year. And I thought it was definitely worthwhile mentioning for a number of reasons. Most people would be aware 48 speakers, 3 streams, was an amazing event, the largest ever EV only conference that we've seen here in Australia. But more importantly, that is now available on our YouTube channel. So anybody who is interested in any of the talks or the panel sessions, they are all available for free on our YouTube channel. So a huge amount of content there for people to go back and have a look at. And it's amazing that it's 12 months ago, because having seen several of the various pieces again just recently, you would think that they were talking in today's terms. It's interesting that we, in a lot of cases, haven't moved forward. There's a number of things that have been going on around the association. For me, probably the most exciting ones have been the formation of sub-branches up in Townsville and Cairns. A big shout out to the Queensland branch and Queensland branch committee for the work they've done to get that up and running. I think, as we stated at the last AGM, it's our vision that we would see branches popping up all over Australia, and it's been tremendous that particular part of the country has over the course of this year got representation for our group. Obviously, it's a fairly large region and one that's difficult to serve from further down in southeast Queensland. So to John and the crew, congratulations on getting that up and running. That's a really brilliant result. We've had, across the course of the year, we've had numerous consultations with various state governments. I won't take you through all of those. You'll see in my report when we put it up, but we've also been talking with a number of bodies as well, such as the and AAA, just about various things we can get involved with together. The last part is really the thanks, and for those who aren't aware, he's not here. Put himself in as a late apology, which sort of stuffs up his official swan song. But Clive Attwater is retiring from the executive at this meeting, and I'd like to put a special thanks out to Clive for the effort that he's put in and the support he's offered, not only to the executive but to various branches in the different roles that he's been able to fill over many years with the association. Some people may remember that our president, Greg, had some issues, and Clive needed to step into that breach back in 2019. Clive jumped into that wholeheartedly and certainly did a fantastic job. So we thank Clive for his service, and he's still involved in the Tassie branch, and we look forward to catching up with him when we can finally get back together at some point. I'd also like to put a thanks out to the branch committees of the various branches. As I mentioned at the top, there's been a heap of work going on behind the scenes trying to cope with the new norm of COVID, and we've managed to come through relatively unscathed, which has been a fantastic effort from the various branches. We've managed to get meetings back up and running when allowed. We've kept online meetings happening. We've had a new genesis of hybrid meetings of live and online. There's been all sorts of stuff going on. So thank you very much to the branch committees for the work that they've done in keeping that going and keeping everything moving from an AEVA perspective, but also from a branch perspective. To Chris and Michael for their work over the course of the year. It's been a huge year. There's been a huge number of meetings, much more than in the previous year, and I would hazard a guess, many more meetings than potentially any year thus far. For them and their work, I would offer a sincere thank you. It's been a huge effort to get through. There's been, many people may be aware, but a lot may not. There's been a huge amount of work has gone into the constitution and the legal changes, the structural changes that we're looking at and discussing later on. The amount of diligence in terms of going through what are fairly boring papers to look at over and over and over and over again, and rediscussing them with lawyers and over again and making changes has been tremendous. So I offer my sincere thanks to Chris and to Michael for the work that they've put in. And finally, I'd just like to extend my thanks to all of our valuable members who have continued to support the association in a time when they didn't really have to, and certainly through the major lockdowns in those particular states. It would have been really easy to just let it all go. But we've got a fantastic group of members who have continued to, fight the good fight and keep pushing on. And I think it's through that support that that we're able to continue to drive the EV transition here in this country. So thanks very much to everyone for their support across the year. And that is all I've got on the President's report. So I'll throw to Chris Jones for the Secretary and Membership report.
Cool, thank you. Thanks for that, Chris. I'll start with the Membership Secretary report. So we've typically made an appointment every year at every meeting for the Membership Secretary to oversee new memberships of the association, deal with any membership renewal issues that people might have, and obviously collect data on it. This year has been pretty good. Normally, our membership drops after the new financial year because a lot of our members always renew in July. So if they don't get around to renewing within the month, then our membership numbers typically drop. This year's been quite good in that most people have been on the ball with their renewals. So we've basically had a high watermark of about 1,100 members, but we currently sit a little over 1,000 members. If I might just share my screen, I'll open up my. This is our chart from the website. So this is our active memberships. We currently have 1,008 active memberships. We've got 640 members who have expired. That is to say they haven't renewed yet, but hopefully they all will soon. We've got 38 pending who haven't completed their transactions yet. But of that, we've got 97 active business and organisation members. So thank you so much to you guys for joining us and paying the extra. And I hope that our directories page is up to date for you. If not, let us know and we'll update it for you. Yeah, we can see that we obviously have a pretty good breakdown of individual and concession members, but pretty good going, I would say. Be really good to keep pushing these numbers up, and as our numbers grow, our representation grows, and that's probably the most valuable thing that we get out of membership is representation, knowing that there is literally 1,000 people willing to pay to push the cause for electrified transport in this country. So that's a really good thing. So that's basically the membership report. I could do a breakdown of the states. I'll put that into the minutes to the meeting, but currently our championship holder still retains the medal of most members, which is currently the Queensland branch, but close behind it is the West Australian branch. Everybody has almost 200 members, some more, so it's pretty good going. Everyone's keeping those numbers nice and high. So without further ado, I will jump over to the Secretary's report, which I will read from my previous notes. Okay, so if 2020 was a burning dumpster, then 2021 was surely the burning dumpster which kept on catching fire after you thought you'd extinguished it. Pandemics being difficult years, not least because of the risk of serious illness, but also because the measures to contain it restrict our gatherings, and those lockdowns in New South Wales and Victoria, and to a lesser extent Queensland and South Australia, have certainly prevented us from effectively planning events in person. And a tragic casualty of that was, of course, the 2021 EV Expo and Conference in Adelaide. Unfortunately, had to cancel because of COVID, and it's a very, very disappointing and frustrating thing, but that's what pandemics do. I'll further to Chris's point, at a time when EV's uptake in Australia is pitifully slow, it was quite disappointing to see the Victorian government introducing an EV-specific road user charge designed to make them pay their fair share. Now, the AEVA has long held the position that there's nothing intrinsically wrong with a road user charge so long as it's applied fairly, and could serve as a really valuable tool to both fund transport and mobility infrastructure and drive change in how we use or overuse our roads. But by singling out EVs, and in particular charging plug-in hybrids at a rate which makes them so uneconomical to drive that you're better off driving a hybrid, we think the legislation was a backward step. And we made that clear in many submissions penned on AEVA letterhead. Our organisation will continue to advocate for a fairer implementation of any such legislation and seek to ensure that the external costs of roads and road use are properly paid for by all road users. That includes internal combustion engine vehicles. Of course, the other global threat that's looming is climate change caused by greenhouse gases emitted by industries like electricity and transport, which is something that the AEVA happens to have a solution for. But our federal government has been rather embarrassing on that front. When forced to attend the COP21 meeting, they delivered an even more cringeworthy response to the world, which was more or less shrugging their shoulders and saying, we don't really care. But the need to electrify transport and clean up our grid never went away, ultimately forcing the government to face serious questions on emissions when they returned from COP. Their response was a lackluster re-announcement of their FFS document, which we all know the alternative explanation for that acronym. And they're focusing on choice and the promise of future technologies yet to be proven, let alone developed. So it's at this point that AEVA and its role in informing the public about electric mobility was brought into sharp focus. AEVA officers around the country were fielding phone calls left, right and centre from radio stations, podcasters and news crews, all seeking comment from those in the know, not those who spin. And we did our best, and we did it. We did highlight the urgent need. Sorry, whilst we did our best, it does highlight the urgent need for a more media savvy membership, and it would be great if we could have more spokespersons for the role. So please get in touch with the executive, and we'll try and give you some, I guess, media coaching tips and that kind of thing. This will become important as we've got a federal election and a few state elections coming up, so it's important to get that right. Obviously, internally, we've been pushing to modernise our governance, making it more relevant to the national nature of our cause. And whilst our current arrangement as an incorporated association has served us well, our national presence and growing membership base means we'll have greater administrative demands. So the advice to us was to convert to a company limited by guarantee. We have acted on this, and ultimately, hopefully, endorsed by the membership tonight. I hope this change will bear fruit quickly, not least in being better placed to manage our finances, but also potentially employ members to do key roles that demand more time than volunteers are willing to provide. Finally, I'll be stepping down as National Secretary this year after 5 years in the role. As anyone in the not-for-profit sector will attest, the role of Secretary is certainly one of the busiest and demanding roles. The secretary is the primary point of contact for any inquiries, no matter how big or small. I've often given advice on whether I should buy a second-hand Leaf or where to find a charger, or who to write to. It's been great that I can direct those inquiries. But my day job as a lecturer at TAFE is keeping me busier than ever before. So I'll be handing that over to our newly elected secretary, who is Warwick Cathro. And hopefully once we're set up, we can start to pay someone to do this role. So just go back to the screen. Okay, what was next on the agenda?
I think it's Treasurer's report.
Thanks, Chris. Treasurer's report. Michael, you're on.
Yeah, Chris, can you reset, Chris Jones, can you reset my sharing, please, so I can bring up the
Sure.
spreadsheet?
Make you a co-host. Yes, I'll make you a co-host.
Here we go. Screen, it should be that screen, and we should be allow, and hopefully in a moment you should be able to see finances for FY21. So it was a good year, a bit of a strange year, not quite what we've seen in other times in recent years. But if you look at the income side, 142,273, which is a bit down on recent years, but that's all to do with the different type of fundraising we've been doing, and of course, not being able to do the bigger events like we have in the last couple of years. From a membership perspective, we're feeling the effects of extra members, and we're also feeling the effects of the increased membership fees starting to flow through. So that's bumped that up quite nicely. We had the tail end of the donations for the WA charges and the Queensland solar system, and we had a grant from the ACT government for AEVA events, which rounds out 142,000. From an expenses, I should say, 113,750, which is down on past years again, all to do with the effects of COVID and not doing the bigger events that we've had in the past. But if you look through the breakdown, admin has something I've been watching a little bit. The admin costs came back to something a little bit more normal, probably to do with the not as many events, not as much activity, so to speak, but something I was watching because we had a big uptick in FY20, so I'm still watching that one. Hire of premises was down because we just couldn't meet, so we weren't hiring them. Insurance was down because we didn't need it for the bigger events. We had legal fees, that's to do with the Constitution, and there'll be a few more of those flowing through. Marketing was down because we just weren't doing the big things that needed marketing. And then we're starting to see the funds flow out from this paying off or paying for the Queensland solar system and the WA charges. So we're not quite up to the, we've still got a few thousand, I think tens of thousands, just short of $10,000 left of the donations to cover the cost of those two systems. I think so. There's still a little bit of money to be spent there, but that's starting to finish off or wind down. Meaning that this year we had a surplus of $28,528, meaning that we've got all up about 149,299 in all of our bank accounts and term deposits, which is pretty good. So best we've seen, like Chris said, I think best ever. When we're looking at FY22, the expenses that we are expecting, the ACT event in April, the legals to see us through the CLG, some accounting expenses to see us through the CLG, but also ongoing because when we're in CLG, the new structure, the accounting is a bit more onerous, so it's going to be a bit more expensive for us. And then the ACT events, the ACT grants, we've got to finish off that work, and branch funding. And at the moment, the only branch that's asked for funding is Queensland, and so that's probably going to be on just above $3,000 to them. Most other branches are pretty well funded right now, so not expecting, and no one else has asked for funding top-ups. It's just Queensland at this time. That's the finances, unless there's any questions.
Brilliant. Okay, could I ask someone to move? I'll need, Michael, I'll need you to stop sharing your screen if that's okay. So thank you. Can I ask someone to move that we accept the reports?
Yeah, Hunter here. I'll move the report.
Yeah, all right. Second it.
Okay. So that was moved Hunter and seconded Sally. That's great. Okay, National Council report.
Chris, is this where you want me to, Chris Jones, is this where you want me to read the minutes? Or how will this be handled? Am I getting through?
Yes. Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, if you've got a copy of the
do.
minutes that I took, if you could read them, that would be great.
Okay, just a query. About 40% of these minutes will repeat the President's address and the Treasurer's report from tonight, but I should read them in full, should I not, since they have to be ratified. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm just letting you know, this will take about 7 or 8 minutes. Okay, so here we go. First, the minutes of the National Council meeting last night, online via Zoom. So first of all, the attendance. We had Simone Fool, Les Smith, John Day, Michael Day, Jason Mead, Mark Roberts, Warwick Cathro, Rob Ogilvie, Chris Nash, Rick Malloy, James Kirk, Charles Gregory, Penny Cocker, Clive Attwater, Sally Knight, Eric Rodder, Hunter Murray, Richard Baird, and Chris Jones. No apologies reported. Branch reports, we didn't do them. They were skipped as they'll be given at the AGM and added as an appendix. President's report. So that there was a President's address provided at the AGM, but reading what's in the minutes, Chris Nash reported that the Global EV Alliance was launched in 2021. It's been a massive success, involving 28 countries and 45 organizations and a collective membership of over 120,000 members. And the goal is to push governments and business to adopt an all-electrified transport sector by 2030. On another matter, Chris Nash reported that sadly the Adelaide Conference and Expo was cancelled due to the ongoing pandemic, but that the Expo planned for Canberra in April 2022 is still on the cards, and that Expo is generously supported by another grant from the ACT government. Another matter, we're well engaged with the Fully Charged show for October 2022, and Fully Charged are keen to have us running as part of their show. This year, there were many representations to governments, both state and federal, and roundtable meetings with numerous departments. There were meetings held with the ETU, the AAA New South Wales Transport, and in relation to New South Wales, a bid was made to host Try Drive Days, but that bid was not successful, not awarded. There was some positive feedback though, and options for a nationally coordinated Electricana scheme is still possible. Sally Knight suggested Lease Plan are the best contact for South Australian Try Drive stuff, but lease organisations vary from state to state. Services like a roadside assistance program and an AEVA fast charge card was investigated, but there are many issues to work through before it becomes viable. There were numerous media and press appearances with radio, newspapers, podcasters and broadcasters. The National Executive has met 10 times to plan for the establishment of the AEVA CLG, the company limited by guarantee, and other matters as they arose. And in his report, Chris Nash thanked Clive Attwater for his service as Vice President and acknowledged his efforts as he stands down from the role. And he also thanked Michael Day and Chris Jones for their efforts on the executive. Chris Jones gave a brief secretary's report, but I don't need to repeat what Chris said tonight. That's provided at the AGM and presented as an appendix to the minutes. Now, Michael Day gave the Treasurer's report and basically summarising that we had income down due to fewer sponsored events, membership income increasing due to the 2019 price rise, and better renewal rates and cash donations. The grant funding for the ACT events has been a major source of income, but COVID is limiting the subsequent spend. Legal expenses are up due to the CLG transformation work. Marketing expenses are down. Expenditure on equipment like charges balanced any gains. Bank accounting changes have been postponed until needed for the new CLG structure. Company limited by guarantee. Yes. Sorry, did anyone interrupt? No, I'm just reading on. Michael also highlighted the need to check Stripe versus PayPal as prices vary. And additional funding for regional branches is likely, perhaps an additional $1,000 to each state branch. So that was the Treasurer's report part of last night's meeting. Sally Knight moved that the above reports be accepted, seconded by Rob Ogilvie, and that was approved. Then we move on to elections and appointments. So Penny Cocker served as returning officer for the elections. All the executive positions and appointments were dissolved and nominations were called for. Following nominations were made. President, Eric Rodder nominated Chris Jones. That was seconded by Simone Fool, and Michael Day nominated Chris Nash, seconded by Rob Ogilvie. No other nominations were received. There was an anonymous poll held, and Chris Jones was declared president. Vice President, Chris Jones nominated Chris Nash as Vice President. This was declined. Chris Jones nominated Hunter Murray, seconded Sally Knight. Hunter was appointed unopposed. Secretary, Chris Jones nominated Warwick Cathro. That was seconded by Rob Ogilvie. Warwick was appointed unopposed. Treasurer, Michael Day nominated himself as Treasurer, seconded by Chris Jones. Michael was appointed unopposed. Assistant Secretary, Pete Gorton will continue in that role. Membership Secretary, Charles Gregory was nominated by Chris Nash, seconded by Chris Jones. Charles was appointed unopposed, and Simone Fool offered support for the role. Chris Jones thanked Chris Nash for his service to the association as president during the past 2 years, acknowledging the additional challenges that a pandemic offers organisations like our own. His professionalism and motivation signalled a shift in the running of the association and is to be commended for his efforts in the transition to a truly national organisation. That concludes the elections and appointments part of the minutes. Disbursements, the Queensland branch requested a top up of an additional $1,000 to cover the administration costs of regional sub-branches and will advise of upcoming events. There were no other requests. Transition to AEVA Limited. This was discussed. It was made clear that the motion to move to a company limited by guarantee was set in place for the AGM, despite the Constitution not being a final draft. Any changes legally require 21 days notice for membership to vote on at a general meeting. And Chris Nash moved that the National Council approve the presentation of a motion at the annual general meeting, which reads that the AEVA Inc. officially endorse the new organisational governance structure outlined in the documents provided, such that the organisation may operate as AEVA Limited and allow the executive to take any further actions required to complete this transition. Chris Jones seconded that motion. It was passed unanimously, except for one abstention. And finally, the next Expo and Conference will be held in Canberra, and the 2023 Expo and Conference are to be held in Western Australia, pending any changes. The meeting ended at 9:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern Summer Time. That's the minutes of last night's National Council meeting. People recovered from that? Back to you, Chair.
I move those minutes to be accepted, if that helps.
Okay, that sounds good.
Seconded.
Okay. So Hunter moved. And I didn't catch who seconded, sorry.
Rob Ogilvie.
Rob. Okay. And can we have a poll? This is our test to see that we've got our poll working. We'll launch our poll. Okay, can everybody see the poll? You should see the motion that the minutes to the previous AGM be accepted. That should be a pretty straightforward one. Further down, you'll see the motion that the outcome of the National Council elections be endorsed by the AEVA membership at this AGM. And then we can worry about the last two motions later on, but you're welcome to click ahead if that's what you wish to do.
So I can't vote, Chris, because I'm a host.
Oh, that's right. I shall
The host.
remove co-host permissions. There you go. Vote
Oh,
away.
there you go. Perfect.
No, I can't vote. That's all right.
Chris, we don't have an abstain option. Is that, does that matter?
I'll register your abstention.
Are you inviting us to vote on the third motion before we discuss it? I don't quite understand.
Well, that's the way the online poll works. But for those who are keen, I guess you can, but we do need to raise it first.
I have the impression that I couldn't submit a vote on the first two without clicking something yes or no for 3 and 4,
Oh,
I think.
I must concede that our use of polls on Zoom is very new.
This was sort of covered last night, Chris, where it was, yeah, we couldn't do it. So you've got to either split it or save the whole vote to the end.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, well, let's just move on and save the rest of it till the end then, shall we?
Yep. Chris, it is possible to have 4 separate polls, one with each motion in it. I think that would be something to keep in mind for the future.
True. Yes, you can split them up. Yeah, you're right. Okay, well, I can pleased to report so far that the previous AGM minutes have been accepted at a rate of 100%, and that the National Council elections be endorsed by the AEVA membership at this AGM has been endorsed at 97%. And I guess we'll move on to motion 3. I guess we should move on to branch reports then, shall we?
Chris Nash.
Sorry, Chris. So as the new president, the meeting's yours.
I was wondering when that role switched over.
Yeah. So as we discussed before.
Yeah. Okay. All right then. Well, that being the case, we'll move on to our branch reports. For every representative for each state branch who wishes to give a quick 5-minute or less, preferably, report on what you've been up to, that would be fantastic. And I'll nominate Richard Baird if he's there to talk about the West Australian branch goings-ons. Is Richard there? No. How about Ant Day?
I'll be just.
All right, I'll take that. So the WA branch has largely been involved in many events, and including, but not solely, Electricana. We've taken part in things like iDrive WA. We've mustered people for a collection of 66 EVs in Darwin, about 200 k's east of Perth, in order to raise funds or to get interest going for the 2 fast chargers on the Nullarbor to aid everyone to come across to WA or go the other way, I guess. Then we've had all the usual meetings, and the Perth to Esperance fast charger highway is also in play, and that's part of what we're doing. Aside from that, we've seen tremendous growth in EVs in the state, culminating just a couple of days ago with an overhead view of 461 Teslas on the Fremantle docks, and I think the interest in the state is pretty large given its small population, and a large part of that is due to our activism. I don't really have much. Oh yeah, we've also had state government announcements and planning for the state government electric highway, which is supposed to go from Kununurra in the north and near the Northern Territory border, all the way down to Esperance in the south. It'll be almost certainly the longest electric highway. Well, will be the longest electric highway in Australia and possibly the world. It's an immense effort. We unfortunately couldn't get the state government going in terms of subsidies and rebates and the like, unlike some of the eastern states. But that's their contribution to the EV movement. I'm battling to think of other things, but I know that there are lots that we've been busy with this year, despite COVID. We're lucky in this state to have evaded most of the issues with COVID, with our hard borders, which has been, I guess, a limitation in terms of in terms of Australia-wide gatherings, but in terms of our state has affected us little. But we have done a lot of weekend ruining by getting out and about in WA with our EVs and making sure that we are visible with our electric vehicles. And I think that was the main one of the main things that we did was get out and about from top to bottom of the state and make ourselves visible. I see a question there regarding to the west. I assume you mean to the east of Kalgoorlie from our point of view. The state government's not covering east of Kalgoorlie and Esperance. We are putting in together with John Edwards from Tesla Club of Australia, and also with Tesla Club of Western Australia. We are motivating to get 2 veg oil powered chargers on the Nullarbor, initially at Kaiguna Roadhouse, which will be put there on the 9th of January. John Edwards, who's a legendary EV stalwart in our state, will be driving across to put these 2 veg oil powered V-fill chargers, 50 kilowatt chargers on at Kaiguna Roadhouse, and we're going to, I guess, await the flood, the tsunami of EVs coming across and going from Perth when our borders finally open.
Cool.
I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Ant. Brilliant. Can we get a report from South Australia?
We sure can, Chris. So over the past year, we've continued our monthly meetings in person, except for last November and July this year due to sudden lockdowns, snapdowns we have here. We've had a fantastic assortment of guest speakers each month, everything from senior politicians, company CEOs, SA Power Networks, conversion specialists, motorbikes, and the ongoing story of the restoration of the Investigator 1, Flinders electric vehicle that will be 50 next year. We've also proved the best way to get a great turnout for your branch AGM in the middle of winter is to run EV test drives before the meeting, you can guarantee at least double the usual quorum turning up. It was a great night. And adding supper, COVID-safe supper back in for the past few months around the restrictions here has continued to provide a good social aspect to the whole situation. We have, look, the other thing obviously was the pretty heartbreaking decision to have to cancel the national event, which we were looking forward to hosting this year, due to the Delta outbreak running around the country and closing all the borders. That was really heartbreaking for us, and I would like to thank those who offered their support and commiserations at that time. It has, however, led to some new partnerships for us here, particularly with the Australia Institute, who've come out very strongly against the road user charge. And in fact, this month, November, the 7th of November, we were able to help them host an electric car show at Victoria Park in the city here. It was great. We had over 40 cars, motorbikes, all sorts on display. And the leader of the opposition used the event, that's the ALP or in opposition here, used the event to announce he would repeal the EV tax if elected next March here. So that's quite opposite to the ALP situation in Victoria. Interesting world. And of course, on that day, I got to meet Dan Bleakley from the Teslas for Coal Mines guy. That was a buzz as well. We also, just 10 days ago after that, November was a good month till we opened up last Tuesday. We also had 3 days of our usual display of electric cars at Science Alive, and Eric updated our display and did a fantastic job for that. Up north, Hunter has also been very active in the media space and running his Tesla in the Red Centre Nats and taking politicians out to the drag strip to get them motivated about driving electric cars. We, like everyone else, we're fielding an increasing number of TV news and radio requests, as well as general public inquiries on the usual, what can I buy, where can I get it, you know, how far will it go kind of thing. And I've given an increasing number of public talks at local councils and for local environment groups and that kind of thing. It's obviously we're finally a mainstream issue. With the state government, the charging network that was announced a year ago, they have selected the site hosts and engaged with network operators. We hope at some point soon to see a politician in a hard hat for a photo opportunity to say they're actually going to install something. We live in hope. With Ant's comments about those charges on the Nullarbor, earlier today I was contacted by a film crew wanting to film a celebrity doing an EV trip across the Nullarbor next February and March even. So it never stops and the interest is there. And finally, as always, I would like very much to thank the other committee members, particularly Eric, Dennis, our treasurer, and Bruce, who organises our guest speakers, for making sure the monthly meetings run so well and so smoothly, and the other committee members for their enthusiasm and support. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Sally. Let us travel down to Tasmania. Do we have Penny or Charles?
Hey, I'm here. I don't know if Penny's online. I couldn't see her in the list. She's not responding, so I'm guessing she's not. Okay, that's okay. I have made a quick note of things just in case. This is a very unprepared report. The last year we've held and participated in a number of events. These include an Electricana Try and Drive event in Devonport that was supported by the City of Devonport. Which is also in a car park where one of the fast chargers has been installed. We had a stall at AgFest, which is basically the largest agricultural show in the state. We always get a lot of attention there, and COVID has affected the number of people, but it's still something that we've it's still a good a good event for us. We've also attended the Clarence Climate Action Expo Festival on the eastern shore of Hobart, and the Sustainable Living Festival in Launceston. We also attended the opening of the first Tesla Supercharger in Tasmania, which was also the first version 3 Supercharger in Australia. That was at the Spirit of Tasmania terminal in Devonport. I did that along with the local TOCA community, Tesla Owners Club community. Another good success story for EVs in Tassie has been the Goodco company. That's not strictly an AEVA thing. They've been running group buys and bulk buys for secondhand imported EVs, as well as recently some new EVs, new Australian EVs. They've been doing that in Tasmania and in many parts around the country.
AGM.
Yep. As well as that, we also this year we had a state government election, surprisingly held a year early, but they had a number of policies for electric vehicles, including a removal of stamp duty for EVs for the next 2 years, and some additional funding for fast chargers. The government got re-elected, and those have both gone into place so far. I think we were almost the first state, maybe the ACT, but it's almost the first state to have EV incentives. So the stamp duty rebate has been well received. As far as chargers go, there was the Arena grant, which the Arena Future Fuels grant resulted in chargers allocated nationally, of course, but in Tasmania we're getting 10 more sites in and around Hobart. And the Charge Smart grants, which were the state government ones, have also been announced, and there will be 20 new fast charging sites for those locations. So there would be all up. There will be about 40 to 50 fast chargers, DC chargers in the state in the next couple of years. So that's a great result for the state. It's going to be one of the best, one of the highest levels of coverage of any state or territory, especially for our population. And yeah, we look forward to people coming over and visiting as they start traveling interstate again. I don't think I'm listening.
Thanks very much for that, Charles. Chris or someone for the Victorian branch?
You want me to do it, Chris? Okay. I'll just have a look. Rick Moller here from Victoria. I'm the secretary. Chris has already mentioned our major event, which was the EV Vision 2000, but that was unfortunately had to be downsized from a major EV expo and a conference in October to the totally online event, the EV Vision 2000. And Chris has already talked about that, how fantastic it was, but I think I should say that a lot of work went into that, and there was a committee, so I should thank the committee. They know who they are. But there's 3 special thank yous must go to Bryce Gatton, Chris Nash and Brendan Davies. Bryce in particular did an amazing job. He took responsibility for the event, and it was his design and effort that really brought it right through. But of course, Chris and Brendan did a major contribution as well. Now, it's been a quiet year for Victoria. We've had one major shutdown and others, and we've moved venue to the Scout Hall in Glen Waverley, but we've only managed to hold 3 events there in the whole year, which is disappointing. And we're trying to organise the hybrid event, but we haven't actually got to that yet. We have 221 paid members and 180 non-members. Those non-members are invited to all the events except the AGM. I won't go. We've attended and supported on half a dozen events during the year, which is very much down on our usual. But hopefully next year we'll we'll step up and hold 1 or 2 try drives, and we're looking confidently ahead. Our AGM in September was well attended by 32 people, and the committee is still strong. Our treasurer and member for many, many years, Daryl Budgeon, he's stepping down. And so thank you to Daryl for all those years of support. And James Kirk is setting up. So the committee's doing well, and we've got our pub night coming up and a committee meeting next month. And we've got a rough plan for the year, and hopefully we can have 1 or 2 try drives and successful events. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Rick. And I should note also that Daryl suggested that Kevin Woodhouse be considered for a life membership for his contributions over the last several decades, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll certainly look forward to looking into that. Okay, New South Wales.
So it'd be fair to say that 2021 wasn't what we planned. What we wanted to do was rebuild the event program, the formal meetings, the try drives and meetups. But what happened was we spent more online than what we wanted. That worked out pretty well because we actually had some really interesting speakers, and we managed to reconnect with quite a few people that had either moved out of Sydney, more broadly around New South Wales, or even some that have been overseas. So it was a pleasant surprise, but not quite what we wanted. We're very active in other ways, media, of course, responding to tenders to the New South Wales government, state government, being involved in different reference groups for the New South Wales state government for charge locations and things like that. And we were pretty happy with the incentives that we got out of New South Wales as well. So pleasantly surprised. And that spawned off a whole other lot of presentations, meetings, media off the back of that. To round out the year, we're hoping that we'll get Christmas away, so we've got another week for things hopefully to settle down, and we'll hopefully meet up in person, our last in person for the year. And then we're looking forward to next year. Hopefully that is the chance for us to rebuild our event program, hoping to have a good turnout at Canberra, and then we'll have fully charged live at the end of the year, which should be a good event as well. So that's pretty much New South Wales.
Fantastic, Michael. Thanks for that. And we're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to all catching up in person again, which was ultimately what we want. Eric, Warwick, would you like to speak to the ACT?
I can, although I'm hoping Rob's
Rob,
still with us, and I can hand over to Rob for the. I'd like him to say something about the National Expo and Conference, but just a few things. I mean, we had changes to our branch committee back in February. That's when Rob became our chair, and the executive confirmed again at our AGM in September with Daryl Burke rejoining the branch committee. We worked with the ACT government and with the major local charging infrastructure provider, Actu-AGL, on some detailed proposals that we made about how to improve local charging infrastructure. And they were quite fruitful discussions, both with government and that company. EV experience days or try ride days, we had them in May, June and July, and then we had a lockdown in August, September and October. We're just resuming again. We've got some coming up this coming Sunday and also in mid-January, and we'll have more in February and March. On the 6th of February, we'll be running our Zero Emissions E-Venture, and this is where we have something like 100 Canberrans in teams travelling around Canberra on electric transport, on e-scooters, electric boats, electric cars, an electric bus, a Yutong E12, light rail, and we'll have quiz questions about electric transport along the way and a bit of a celebration at the end of it. So that's a major event coming up in February. Now, if Rob is listening, hopefully he can report a bit more about the National Conference and Expo plan for the 1st to the 3rd of April.
Yep.
Otherwise, oh, good, Rob. Yep.
Thanks, Warwick. Yeah, so it's sort of been a busy year. Coming forward with the Expo, it's on 1st to the 3rd of April next year. We've booked 2 big pavilions and a 3rd one now. We've been working now with Chris Nash and Michael Day, and we've got appointed a exhibition specialist to do this. So we're well on track to making it a big event. We're expecting between sort of 10 and 15,000 people per day. So it's a whole sustainability program, not just EVs, but with a basis in fundamental EVs. It is, it's quite daunting in some ways, but exciting in others that it's going to be so big. And so just on that, if anyone's got any leads of anyone that might want to exhibit or be a part of that or show something, send Warwick, Secretary at Canberra, just a link, and we'll send through a form. And rather, we don't want to contact everyone and have everyone contact everyone. So it's better if we sort of do it that way. And then we can move forward with that. So again, if anyone's got any hot leads or warm leads that we could use, that'd be fantastic.
Wonderful. Thanks for that, Rob and Warwick. That leaves Queensland. John, would you like to speak to what's going on up north?
I can, and thank you to all those that are still online after well past the hour mark. I'll be very succinct. Basically, we remained largely unaffected by COVID in Fortress Queensland. We didn't really change much from previous years. We kept up all our hall meetings, but with the way 2020 went, I introduced car park meetups on a monthly basis, so on top of the hall meetings, because I found that the hall meetings were good to have speakers along, discuss battery technology, solar, EVs, all that type of stuff. But we weren't spending that much time with the cars, so I introduced the car park meetups, and they were well attended across the year. The major thing, we've done other EV drives and things like that, but the main jewel in the crown for us this year was the Cleveland EV Experience Day that saw about 80 EVs, and we did 150 test drives with the community, just a 4-hour event, and that was really well organised by the Queensland Committee, and with help from the Queensland Toka Group and Alina Didi, who's at Give It a Whirl, as well as a lot of the businesses that support the Queensland branch with their membership. They all got to come along and display their products. So the only other quick note is that we've managed to start up some branches, and that's coming along. And I think Graham and I are going to Toowoomba on Wednesday night to see if we can get a third sub branch set up there. And that's about it from Queensland.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that, John. And Hunter, lucky last. Northern Territory.
Just get myself off mute. Sorry about that, guys. Well, look, I mean, Sally covered most of the stuff as a sub branch of South Australia. We are still, I guess, struggling to get members. Certainly got a lot of members on the forums and the Facebook pages, but yeah, look, I'm always open to advice to get some conversions. You guys got something out there to get them in, but probably just a quick couple of notes. Spending a lot of time with groups like Rotary and high school kids. Thanks to Clive's AEVA history PowerPoint that I've been gladly spending looking at the history of electric vehicles. So giving people a pretty good feel for that type of thing. The other two big issues is that Northern Territory government has finally released their electricity or electric vehicle strategy and implementation plan. Although it's fairly dot pointed, it is definitely talking about reducing registrations and stamp duties, grant programs for home, workplace and public EV charging. So I'm really keen on getting into that. Supporting local innovation with EV technology, promoting the locations, of course, and they're looking at increasing their NT government fleet. So so that's a really good thing. Unfortunately, nothing starts until about the middle of next year when it comes to grants. So that's one we're trying to aim for, and be welcome to get any ideas or anyone that's previously been through this stuff, so I don't have to reinvent the wheel. And one little final thing was I met up with the Advanced Manufacturing Growth Centre, which may or may not have heard of. I didn't know of them until about a few weeks ago myself. They've actually got grants for advancing manufacturing in Australia, and particularly definitely leaning towards Indigenous type employment as well. But at the same time, they've actually got quite a lot of grant money that they're looking at. So I proposed a couple of things to them, one of them being charge stations, but also the second thing was that come across my table was looking at portable battery packs that there is kind of a standard that the main bike manufacturers are starting to collate, being Suzuki, Yamaha, KTM. Yeah, see Chris nodding his head there. And yeah, so I'm really keen on seeing if we can't get maybe some local manufacturer of 18650 batteries into these sort of things to actually look at motorbike conversions. If these things are available, just like LPG grab and goes from the servo at the time, and they're all being solar charged, I think that's gonna, and that'll be really visual to see those sort of setups. I reckon that'll be one thing that maybe we can start as Australians to start manufacturing and then get them integrated. And another way AEVA can be involved in saying, okay, well, we can start converting bikes. Let's use these batteries. Here's a piece of cake. Now all we got to do is get the motor and the stuff in. So, yeah, but really, yeah, thanks for involving me, and thank you for your confidence in Vice President. So I'd be really interested and keen on focusing on that too this year. This sounds great. So thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Hunter. Great. Well, that concludes our branch reports, unless we've forgotten Norfolk Island or Antarctica. That's the case. I say we move on to the shift to a company limited by guarantee. So hopefully everybody had a chance to read the linked documents in the emails that we sent out. Basically, the advice that we had is that we had been operating as a incorporated association, incorporated in Victoria, yet operating with a national presence, which is, according to Victorian legislation, not on. And it's actually reflected in a lot of other state incorporated association legislation as well. Given that we have a national objective and we have a structure that allows us to get state-specific information to the fore as well, it made sense that we shift to a new structure that is truly national in nature. That was suggested to us by Beck Legal to be the company limited by guarantee. It is regulated by the Australian Securities and Investment Commission, ASIC, as opposed to a state government consumer affairs department like the incorporated associations. It does come with a few more onerous regular annual events that we need to submit documents to. It also means that our directors need to be registered with ASIC. Hence the decision to make those appointments a 3-year appointment, perhaps to reflect the seriousness of the representation that we're chasing. The draft constitution that's been put up, many thanks to people who've been able to get back to us with comments and ways of improving it. We acknowledge that there are things that need to be changed in there. The good news is that it is a live document and we can change it. It's there to be changed, and we want it to be really good. We want it to be as good as possible. But for the purposes of tonight's meeting, we need to vote on the move to a company limited by guarantee, and the phrasing of that motion is quite specific. What we can do, though, is make changes to the Constitution that we're all happy with, and we'll do that with ongoing consultation. And then we'll have to give another 21 days notice under our current incorporated association constitution to put it to the membership for an extraordinary general meeting. Now, the good thing about that general meeting is that it will be a fairly quick meeting, but we will need good representation from our members, and I hope you'll all get back and contribute to that as well. So without further ado, I guess I move that the motion that the AEVA Incorporated officially endorses the new organisational governance structure outlined in the documents provided, such that the organisation may operate as AEVA Limited and allow the executive to complete the conversion before July 1st, 2022. Hopefully you can all contribute to that poll. Chris?
Yeah, I'm just seconding that.
Oh, excellent. Thanks for that. I'll just write that down. Secondly, Chris. Fantastic. And we don't need to do a show of hands because we do have a poll, but what I can do is share the poll. Hopefully you can all see that one there. They're the 4 motions that we worked through tonight. 54 out of 54 for the previous AGM, which is good to see.
Are you showing the poll or are you showing a document, Chris?
Can you see the poll on the front?
No.
No?
Nope.
Okay. Let me just.
Chris is good at EVs, maybe not so good at technology.
Let me just try again. Share screen. Anyway, I guess one way of doing it is a screenshot, but I'm not sure why when I hit share screen it doesn't show up, but
We might choose a. Does it give you the option to choose a different screen?
it does, but it's not showing up. Perhaps because it's the same program.
You could just read it out, Chris.
Okay, sure. Okay, so the motion for the shift to a CLG, there are currently 58 responses, 57 of which are in the affirmative and 1 which is in the negative. So 98% support for the move to the CLG. I'd say that that's fairly unanimous. So I think we can be satisfied that that has passed. So someone's just sent a message here saying, I think you can share the poll from the poll. Maybe I have to end the poll first.
You haven't done question 4 yet, or motion 4, so.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
true.
got to do that.
Okay, so motion 4, that the National Council may delegate power to an executive subcommittee comprising of the President, Vice President, Secretary and Treasurer, such that decisions may be made by the executive on behalf of the National Council. Now, the reason this exists is so that we don't need to hold a National Council meeting every time that we wish to get consensus on something. The idea being that the executive has been appointed by the National Council as being fair and trustworthy representatives. Currently, there are 61 recipients to that, and 58 are in the positive, 3 in the negative. So that's 95% support for the 4th motion. Mark, you had a question there. Does it help if someone is already registered with ASIC? I'm not sure how that would help the association, but we've basically got legal advice on that, which, thanks to this meeting with the endorsement of that transition, we can get to work on setting up that legal entity as soon as we can. But we'll have to pass the constitution again first at an EGM. Okay, well, with 66 contributors, I'll end the poll and share the results. I trust everybody can see that.
Affirmative.
Fantastic. Okay. Okay, well, I guess this leaves us to general business, conscious of the fact that it's getting a bit late. I guess in my concluding formal remarks, I guess I'd like to say that I'm humbled by the support of the National Council and their decision to elect me as president for 2022. I hope in this role I can continue the good work of the AEVA, and that is fostering a friendly, open forum for the dissemination of knowledge and the promotion of electrified mobility for Australia. And I'd especially like to take this opportunity to thank Chris Nash for his service as president for these past 2 years, noting that they have been extra challenging given the pandemic. His professionalism and motivation to push the AEVA onto a global stage through the GEVA must be acknowledged, and it's greatly appreciated, while his drive to modernise the AEVA's governing structure will be remembered as a pivotal moment in this 48-year-old organisation. So thank you, Chris, and I'd like to move that we thank him for his contributions.
I'll second that.
Awesome.
Thanks, Chris.
Fantastic. Well, that's our formal proceedings out of the way, unless there's any great big burning issues.
Yeah, can I just raise a quick general business, Chris, just so that everyone's aware, we do have the national webinar series coming up shortly. I might actually ask John Harris to comment on the people that we've secured so far. It's quite an exciting list, and John's been working quite hard to get that sorted. John, are you still with us?
Yeah, mate. You can tell I'm on my second coffee. Thanks, mate. And yeah, I concur too. There's been some phenomenal people I've met in the AEVA since I first got involved. Thank you, Chris Walkden, and a number of the other members here in Tasmania. And I must say, you know, between self, Dr. Jones, John Day, Sally, all of the people that I've met, it's just quite a thrill to work with you guys. And that gave me a lot of confidence when I started ringing up politicians and saying, hey, we're doing a series of webinars on policy. Would you like to speak? And while I could do probably a good comedy routine on Barnaby Joyce's response and a few others, at the end of the day, we now know that we have, you know, meetings and presentations. Sarah Hanson-Young, Andrew Barr, the Chief Minister, Bill Shorten, Rex Patrick. We're still working on a couple of others, but as Chris and I discussed today, the international policy side of things, the AEVA policy and where to use standards now an incorporated body, and then an address from people like Greg and Dennis who are talking about manufacturing, sales and AV. I think that is an exciting thing. It just keeps getting dragged out later and later in the year because as Parliament continues to sit, politicians can't multitask. They can do doorstops and throw mud at each other, but actually spending 40 minutes talking to 100,000 Australians seems to be a bit hard. But we've made some progress, and yeah, I think we kick off, you know, in the next 9 days. So we'll be talking about some promotion on that shortly.
Awesome. We're definitely looking forward to that. And by the way, we'll always be recording them and putting them up on our YouTube channel so everyone can see them. So yeah, if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, I definitely recommend it. We always put little tidbits up there whenever we can.
Yep.
Are these events going to be, webinars going to be announced on the website soon?
From my perspective, Eric, my first phone call tomorrow morning will be to Chris Jones regarding the graphic design and or to John Day to talk about the promotional side of things. Quite right.
Cool. Awesome. Looking forward to it, and I hope we've got enough time to make it work. I'm sure we will. We'll manage. I always say, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. Fantastic. Well, thank you, everybody. I think that concludes our proceedings for tonight. Thank you so much for so many of you sticking around this late into the evening. It's about dinner time for me. So just to remember that if you're going to call the president for anything, remember he's probably sound asleep until about 11 o'clock your time. But thank you very much, everyone, and keep putting out the good word on electrification. Really, really love it. So well done.
Thanks, Chris.
Good night, everyone.
Okay, good night. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, Chris. Yes.
Thanks, Chris. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, Dr. Jones.
Cheers, guys. All right, now I'm done.
Cheers.